Hello, I'm Aaron Pabone, and this is Game Journalism Network. Video game journalism has been around since the infancy of video gaming. At first, it was simply reporting on a new piece of technology and entertainment, but over the years, it's grown from reporting on a business to people associated with it, from reviews to critiques and a social and pop culture concentration, from emerging technologies to controversy. In the past months, controversy sparked when a blog post about a broken up relationship revealed corruption and cronyism in journalism, when people started censoring others for spreading fact and voicing opinions, when allegations of harassment began to rise, and when journalists attacked their readers and an entire pop culture identity. The controversy I am speaking about is Gamergate. The name Gamergate has been identified in many ways, and it has grown to the point where lines were drawn, a pro side and an anti side. Depending on the person you speak to, you'll hear different ideas of what the movement is about. If you talk to someone on the pro side of Gamergate, they'll tell you that Gamergate is a cause and that the people are part of a consumer revolt in ethics in gaming journalism. If you talk to someone on the anti side of Gamergate, they'll tell you that it is a hate group that's anti-feminist, misogynistic, and uses harassment tactics. It's a situation that I sought to find the answers for and hopefully inform others fact over nonsense. I will disclose the following. I will admit that I am myself a pro Gamergater, and I believe in a push for ethics and reform in gaming journalism. I'm also a firm believer in equal rights for everyone, regardless of race, sexual orientation, creed, or ideology. I'm a freelance journalist who believes in the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution and a firm belief in ethical standards in the career. Because of this, I've actively taken a step back and placed myself on a neutral side so I can understand both sides of the argument in the most journalistic way possible. We've made an effort to understand the harassment, sexism, and misogyny sides of the arguments. We've even looked into allegations that Gamergate was a hate group. The first thing we had to do for this program in a journalistic sense was identify what Gamergate is, and we've classified Gamergate as a hashtag movement that encompasses a variety of different controversies. The controversies are linked to the following. It's a consumer revolt against gaming journalism. It's a movement for ethics in gaming journalism. It's an attempt to reclaim the gamer identity, an attack against debated feminist issues in gaming culture, sexism in gaming culture. During the course of our investigation, our findings kept leading to the same conclusion, a massive institutional failure of the Fifth Estate in gaming journalism. But this leads to the main question, what were the failures in gaming journalism? Conflicts of interest, zero transparency, sensationalism, pushing agendas and narratives that were almost non-existent, and in turn bringing them to life. For many people, there's a basic understanding that journalism is based on the 5 W's and H: who, what, where, when, why, and how. While this is common, we also have other rules that we self-govern ourselves by. A key example of this is from the New York Times Ethical Journalism Handbook. Many news organizations have their own handbooks that help editors and reporters guide them through the ethical questions and concerns that may arise in their tour of duty. If we look at the first section of the handbook, the goal of the New York Times is to cover the news as impartially as possible, without fear or favor, in the words of Adolf Orks, our patriarch, and to treat readers, news sources, advertisers, and others fairly and openly, and to be seen to be doing so. The reputation of the Times rests upon such perceptions, and so do the professional reputations of its staff members. Thus, the Times and members of its news department and editorial page staff share an interest in avoiding conflicts of interest or the appearance of a conflict. The very first section of this handbook warns its staffers to avoid conflicts of interest. Conflicts of interest is one of the key problems in the argument for ethics in gaming journalism, and we will go into more detail about that in another video. In gaming journalism, there are reporters and editors that are representing journalism in its proper forms. We have reviewers and critics using educated backgrounds to give proper reviews and criticism to a medium that we care for. Unfortunately, these names are relatively unknown to the gaming public and industry. Instead, the names that are well known are people named Alexander, and Kuchera, and Grayson, and Schreier, and Hernandez, and Ellison, and Orland, and Totillo, and Navarro, all working in collusion by pushing agendas, starting controversy, sensationalizing unimportant information, resorting to clickbait tactics, intimidation, and engaging in harassment, and even using censorship tactics. These quote-unquote journalists have failed the Fifth Estate and turned their backs on the people they are supposed to represent, the gaming public. It's here on this channel we are setting aside time to explain how they failed. We will explain why ethics are important, how conflict of interests can affect a story or publication, and how agendas and pushing agendas leads to misinformation, and how collusion leads to corruption. We hope that the future of Game Journalism Network can move away from Gamergate as a whole, and cover gaming. This is not us pushing an agenda. This is, however, our priority story, and with the size and scope of Gamergate, it will take some time. Because of the nature of what we're doing, we've also made rules for this channel and program. These are rules that we will be adhering to as strictly as possible, but if you see us straying away from these rules, please warn us and keep us in check. Everything stated on this channel will be based on the truth and facts. Any opinions or editorials will be made clear and separate from any news or information we deliver. At the same time, I will not censor my own opinions. However, I will make every effort to be educated and informed before I voice my opinion and expose to you opinions that are not my own. We will be operating at the highest levels of transparency, and yes, while I am a pro-Gamergater in relation to journalism, we will make every effort to attempt to make a neutral stance on the matter. We will also make every effort to contact people who are in relation to this subject matter. This is to make sure we hear both sides of the argument and situation. We also will make every effort to talk about both sides of the argument. There's a possibility that mistakes will happen. If there are any mistakes or errors, we will post updates and correct misinformation. If any of our viewers notice any error, we ask that they let us know, and we will investigate it and update it if necessary. All these news article videos we only posted on this channel, and any other YouTube channels that I own or are part of will be completely separate, and there will be no relation to them. We will also make no attempts in advertising any of them. On another YouTube channel I do own, I do post a review show. Instead, we review movies, television, comic books, and video games. But we haven't reviewed video games yet. But we've made the decision not to review any video games while we're in production of these videos, as we believe there's a separation between the journalist and the reviewer. Many of you are wondering why we are doing this. We're doing this to bring awareness and to fix a broken system. We're doing this to show the errors and lead an example of what can be done. We're doing this because we decided to. Who am I to do this? I'm a journalist.